Sam Presti, you dirty, evil man. I'm sure everyone watching this video hates his guts. Well, except for some of us who like the Thunder, but what he is doing to the NBA should borderline be considered a war crime, because not only has he built the most dominant team in the NBA last season as well as this season, they still have a boatload of picks in the next few seasons. The most important and notable of these picks being the 2026 first round unprotected pick for the Los Angeles Clippers. Well, it's a good thing the Clippers were a playoff team last year. We have nothing to oh my god, you've done it again, Sam. 5-12 is unexcusable. 5-12 is below the play-in. 5-12 is disgusting. 5-12 is Dallas Mavericks and Utah Jazz territory. That is bad. That is really bad. You're barely above the Sacramento Kings. What? You have James Harden. They have James Harden, but what else? It doesn't seem they have much else. James Harden is the one who we're relying on to try to save the NBA, because the last thing that fans of 29 other teams want to see is for the OKC Thunder to get a top 3 pick loaded with generational prospects in Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, and AJ DeBonsa. What's up, y'all? It's Mason, and the Clippers quite literally have us all on the edge of our seats just for the specific reason that if they get a top 3 pick and the Thunder get one of these guys, I like what is it gonna be, like a 10-year dynasty, 15-year dynasty? You know, it's kind of scary for the rest of the league. I don't really know what's in store here, especially if you are a Clippers fan. You really hope that this doesn't turn out, because the trade is already seen as one of the worst trades in NBA history, trading for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But you also gave up all those picks, and if you're bad while still having Kawhi and James Harden on the team, not gonna lie, it's not looking good. Now, what we've seen from the Clippers this season has been gross, but one thing we have seen that hasn't been is James Harden. James is 36 years old while still maintaining an all NBA level of play. Last year, he was all NBA third team, and this year his numbers have risen again. Dude's averaging 28 a night on 45, 39, 90 splits. Insane. He's also averaging 8.4 assists to go with that. And you've been able to see in these games that if he's not on the court, they don't stand a chance. Their offense is solely run through him, whether it be ISOs, him and Zubac running a pick and roll is 2 of their most common styles of offense. Outside of when he's on the court, especially when he's off, a lot of the times their offense will be, oh, Brook Lopez hash mark threes. What are we doing? This season, James Harden's leading the league in ISOs per game at 9.3. Second place is Luka at 6.3. So he has 3 more ISOs per game compared to a guy who is known as an ISO guy. That's how insane he's been. Now, on top of that, he's averaging 1.09 points per possession on these ISOs, which is just in the realm of Luka and Shai, while doing it at a way higher frequency. God, allergies are frying me again. Oh man. As we see him play like this, we get classic James Harden. Gets Donovan Mitchell on him down the court. He already knows. Boom, blows right by him. Little floater over Evan Mobley. You're not touching that, buddy. Here we go. Same game. Gets John Collins screen. Tyrese Proctor switch on him. Bing, 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 bing. You already know he's driving straight to the left. You can't stop him. He's so good. And he's 36. Okay, one more. So for those of you who didn't know, James Harden dropped 55 points against the Hornets. Here you go, right here. He's got Sion James on him. He's gonna go ahead and behind the back. Oh, he's gonna step back. Oh. Now, after we just got hyped watching Harden just blend up defenders like he always does, we have to look at the negative. And well, with this team, there's way too much of it. The biggest question has been, can anyone else score? And so far, the answer to that has really been no. The one guy you're looking for to score all the time is Kawhi Leonard. Well, his problem is he's already missed 10 of their 17 games. When he's been on the court, they were 3-4 as of the time of recording. That means without him, they are 2-8. And on top of that Kawhi situation, Bradley Beal, who they signed to obviously hopefully give him a little bit of a scoring punch off the bench, yeah, he's out for the season with his hip injury. Meaning this team, 2 of their guys they were looking for on-ball creation are not really on the court. So James Harden, it literally is up to you.
It only makes matters worse that they also do not have Norman Powell anymore. He was an incredible shooter and a great transition player that could push the tempo. And on top of that, they could run handoffs to get him a shot or to get him downhill either way.
Now, I wasn't very high on Zubac this season, but thankfully, his game against the Cavs that he just had recently was very good, putting up stats of 33 points and 18 rebounds. Even though they lost, he was very much a force, even on the offensive glass in that game. Now, John Collins has not exactly lived up to what I was hoping he'd be for this team. I'd like to see him in some more actions, whether it's pick and roll, pick and pop with Harden as well, or even just as a backdoor lob threat or dunker spot lob threat. I'd like to see him used a little more in the offense because, again, anything to prevent James Harden from having to take every shot. Their bench has been one of the worst that I've seen in a long time. I mean, everyone on their bench is just extremely old. You have Batum still. You have Chris Paul at age 40 in his retirement season. Shout out CP3. You got Brook Lopez standing out at the hash mark, taking shots. You got Bogdanovich literally just standing out there shooting threes. Now, fortunately, you have a guy like Derrick Jones Jr. who does help push the floor in transition, which is one of the things that this team's really, really bad at. Oh my God, I need to go blow my nose. When we say the Clippers have been bad in transition, they are the lowest transition team in the NBA. Now, when you watch this team's games, James Harden is very much of a half-court offense guy. And with this older age on the team, they just don't really have enough energy or the stamina to really be pushing in transition, running up and down the floor all the time. That comes into what we have seen being their most disgusting defensive output, especially after last year, where they were a very good defensive team. Last year, they were third in defensive rating at a 110.3, and you could see this as they had very many good wing defenders. And while a few of those same guys are here this season, it just hasn't made a difference. And when you have the negative defender that James Harden is and has especially been this year, getting constantly blown by, it just kind of breaks up the entire defense. Zubac has also not been as good defensively this year because when you're constantly letting people get to the rim, it makes him look bad, even though it's not his fault that everyone's getting blown by on the perimeter. I'm sorry this video has been very nerdy with all the numbers, but here's a couple more for you. The opponent points off fast break. Clippers give up the second most, 18.2 a game, just behind the Sixers. Opponent points off turnovers, second again, 22 a night. That's insane. So you're giving up 22 points off turnovers every single game. The team, 25th in defensive rating at a 119.2. What are we doing? How do you go from having a strong defensive identity that everyone is bought in on that side of the ball, and then this year nobody wants to defend, nobody wants to give any sort of effort outside of standing around watching James Harden cook and shoot threes? James Harden defensively is a big part of that problem. Here's the issue with that is he was here last year too. From my personal eye test, I think he has been worse on the defensive side of the ball. Kawhi has not been playing, meaning that we haven't had a full chance to necessarily gauge what their defense can look like. Brook Lopez, he's very slow. He's one of the slowest NBA players I've probably seen, but shout out to him for still being able to play and still being able to knock down threes. But outside of that, his game has not really translated a lot to this team because you were hoping he was going to be a better transition defender. And also, Chris Paul at his old age can't really guard very well anymore either. He's 40 years old. You can't expect a defensive masterclass from a 40-year-old grown man. It doesn't help that outside of Harden, Chris Paul, who doesn't look as fluid dribbling the ball, you don't really have anybody that kind of knows how to dribble. When Harden goes off the court, we see a lot of times they turn the ball over very stupidly and they don't really give any offensive pressure because they don't get a lot of paint touches. They don't drive to the hole a lot when Harden's not on the floor. It kind of just leads to them settling for threes. This team can't really afford to do that because you haven't had much three-point shooting talent this season so far. Just looking at this Clippers team though, as we know, basketball is a game of runs. Well, not only can this team not run because they're old, every time Harden steps off the floor, the other team almost instantly activates some sort of ultimate ability where they go on like a 12-0 or a 14-2 run. Harden comes back in, and at that point, you might as well just sit the rest of the game, because you know that even if he brings them back, the second he goes out of the game again, offensively, they're cooked. They don't have the tools. And when you have these old guys who aren't doing much on offense, and on top of that, defensively, they're just getting burned and burned and burned in transition, you don't have any options. This team is just going to keep suffering until they figure out that defensive identity again. This is a team I was hoping was going to be like top 10 in defensive rating again. And last year, like I said, they were third. Top 10 is not that big of an ask to go for after finishing third. And for them to be bottom 5 in the league is just unacceptable. It stinks. But that's just the smell of Clippers basketball so far. I want to see this team turn it around. I'm a Thunder fan, and even me, I'm saying that because I've always been a pretty big fan of James Harden. I always liked his game. You can't tell me he deserves to go out like this. Chris Paul does not deserve to go out like this. This team just has too many players that should make it work, that it's just not working. What do you think about the Clippers this season? Let me know down in the comments below. Do you think they'll turn it around? What seed do you see them finishing as in the Western Conference? I had aspirations for them to be an actual playoff team. It's not really looking that way. So honestly, if they could just make the play-in, I think that would be somewhat acceptable after this start. But top 8 would be a goal for them just to turn it around. If they could push up higher than that, it'd be excellent. I don't know anymore, man. I don't know. But James Harden, it is up to you to save the NBA from the eternal torture and the greed they talked about in the Bible with all them picks. It's up to you. Now, whether or not you answer the call, that's not my choice. But nah, get that defense together. That's not even James Harden's fault. I mean, he's not good at it. Y'all for real need to get that defense figured out, though. And as always, see you next time, cuh.